Welcome to Wisdom Talk Radio, a collaborative community of explorers in conscious living. Welcome to today's episode of Wisdom Talk Radio, because this is the place where we explore the depths of conscious living and what it means to live a truly expanded life. Join us to be inspired, encouraged, maybe even transformed, and to tap into a deeper sense of joy and of possibility. For quite some time, much of the world has been experiencing a kind of sense of rolling crises. And 2026 has already shaped it up to be a very powerful year of change. So I'm going to quote you something. With Saturn deep in Pisces and Jupiter exalted all year long, we're standing on the brink of both global crisis and the beginning of a great spiritual renaissance. Everyone is eager for predictions and strategies to face the challenges and to embrace the opportunities of the year ahead. And that is from my guest today, and she is a two-time guest. And you know, I don't usually have people back for a second time, but Katy Jane, Dr. Katy Jane is so special and so dear and so brilliant when it comes to Vedic astrology that I knew we need to hear her. We need to hear from her. So that being said, let me introduce myself. I'm Laurie Seymour, host of Wisdom Talk Radio and CEO and founder of the Baca Institute, home of the quantum connection process. You can go to the Baca Institute to take the quantum connection quiz, which is about discovering your unique connection with the essence of who you are. And when we receive from the essence of who we are, when we allow ourselves that, everything really starts to unfold in quite beautiful and magical ways. So in knowing your own archetype style is really a way to open that deeper connection and to create what you truly want in your life. So I said already that my guest is Dr. Katy Jane. He's named one of the top 75 yogis who are shifting the planet by Origin magazine. Dr. Katy Jane is a Sanskrit and Vedic scholar and skilled Vedic astrologer who traveled India interviewing saints and yogis for her doctoral research. She gives trainings in Sanskrit, the Vedas, and classical yoga to help yoga practitioners access the wisdom teachings at the core of their practice. She also coaches seekers at crucial transitions to develop successful life strategies. And I just recently had a reading from her, so I can attest to the fact of yes. She divides her time between the United States and India, where she leads spiritual retreats to the holy Himalayas. Her latest book, and one of the reasons I really wanted to have her on today, is Moon Signs for the Soul, a guide to healing and self-discovery at life's turning points with the 27 Vedic moon signs. Whew! Welcome, Katy. I'm really happy you're here.
Oh, thank you so much. What a grand introduction. It's like rolling out the red carpet.
It
And
is.
thank you. So thank you for bringing me into your sanctuary and for having me on the show twice. That's so awesome.
It's awesome for you to be here. So where do we start? Maybe just even give us a sensing of what is meant by those 27 Vedic moon signs, because that's a different thing for so many people.
Yeah, I mean, this is a different way of looking at the zodiac from what we're used to. So, most of us are familiar with modern Western astrology or tropical astrology. This system that I highlight in my book comes from the tradition of India, the Vedas. This is called Jyotisha, which is a system of enlightenment, actually. So astrology or Vedic astrology isn't quite the right translation of that word, but it's the closest we can come to it because it does rely on a zodiac. It's just a different kind of zodiac than the Western tropical one.
Mm.
So, I mean, this gets a little complicated, but I'll make it as simple as I can.
Okay.
So, the big difference between the two of them is how they calculate time. So, the tropical zodiac calculates time according to the sun's apparent movement
Hmm.
through 12 sections of the sky every year. So, it allows us to calculate 360 days of time and a human lifespan of, 100 years, we could say.
Hmm.
Vedic astrology traces the moon's movement across 27 fixed star constellations.
Wow.
And this allows us to calculate time according to trillions of years that repeat.
Hmm.
And this is significant because, first of all, we wonder, well, why did this civilization need to track time according to trillions of years? And some people will say that it was to know when to sow and reap crops. But we don't need to calculate time according to trillions of years for that purpose. Instead, what this time frame allows us to calculate is the evolution of the soul's journey over lifetimes.
Wow.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever heard you say that, or at least taken it in the same way I am hearing it now.
it's really mind-blowing. And it relates to this core understanding in the Vedic worldview
Mhm.
that the purpose of the human birth is to evolve spiritually. That we're all moving actually toward the 28th moon sign, which is the state of pure consciousness, unity consciousness, the part that we're all connected to.
Mhm.
And we go through these lifetimes of fragmented self where we experience life lessons that repeat. Each one of us has a set of life lessons. If we live long enough, we are very much aware of the
Yes.
same things that happen to us over and over and over again.
Mhm.
But for what purpose? And that's where your moon sign comes in because it shows where you are on the evolutionary journey, what those repeating patterns are meant to show you about your life's destiny, your life's purpose, and how to act in alignment with it. And when we do that, we grow.
Mhm.
So it's really a system of growth that's connected with a very vast concept of time
Mhm.
that is leading toward what we could call enlightenment. And this is why Vedic astrology is better known as Jyotisha or enlightenment.
Thank you. Thank you for that because it really gives us such a container to be able to speak about a lot of things with, and to realize that the lens is so vast, and yet it's got a very personal a personal message or a personal frame with it within it.
Yes, it's really amazing. It's we're living in a highly personal universe. It seems so impersonal when we contemplate, stars and planets that are light years away.
Hmm.
um, that they couldn't possibly have any relevance to the things that happen in my life.
Hmm.
But according to this worldview, this framework, there is no separation between inner and outer. This whole system of self-knowledge that was based on our relationship to the distant planets and stars that's at the core of Vedic civilization was formed not through telescopes, not through observing externally, but through internal contemplation. The Vedic understanding is from near to far. I can know everything that's outside of myself by looking within.
Oof. Yes. So that's the, the holograph kind of view, or the hologram kind of view, which is everything is contained within that hologram.
Yes. And this is at the basis of the Vedic civilization, thousands and thousands of years old, and
Mhm.
quantum physics.
Exactly. Exactly. I love it. Okay, so let's going into 2026 and what this year is about. You call it, or maybe it's also called other ways, the year of miracles. Um, what should we not anticipate, but what do we need to know so that we can make the most use of what's happening energetically?
Well, this is a really interesting crossroads that we're at uh, as a human race
Hmm.
because we are facing the very rapid takeover of artificial intelligence.
Mm,
I mean, it was really just a couple of years ago, 2023, that I became aware of ChatGPT. And now it's just so prevalent
mhm,
in many of our, not everybody is an adopter, but many, many people have become adopters of this technology, and it's going to become even more prevalent. So 2026 is when we really start to feel the impact of artificial intelligence,
wow.
especially on the workforce, because if I'm an engineer, I'm a writer. I mean, we do need people to be the creative force, the director behind this
Hmm.
technology, but we may not need as many bodies doing the same work.
Hmm.
And so there is a big shift in the workforce and perhaps mass layoffs beginning in 2026. But more than an economic consequence,
Hmm.
what what people will really struggle with is an existential crisis. If I'm not my job,
Hmm.
then who am I?
Mm,
And that becomes the point of self-inquiry. Who am I is the ultimate spiritual question.
right.
And so when people ask it en masse, it becomes the basis for a spiritual awakening. If understood as such, it can be like the Chinese symbol for crisis, which is
Hmm.
also opportunity.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, this can, with the right publicity around what this is actually signaling, people can, really evolve.
Hmm.
Or it can prove to be a mass mental health crisis.
So they can start the journey or they can turn their back.
Or just not know that it's even a journey.
Right, right, right. And think that it really, I see so often how even in the midst of a change that is in the flow of everyday life, that we think first, oh, there's something wrong, or oh, I'm getting sick, instead of, oh, that curiosity about, ooh, I feel something different. What is that? What is this? And exploring it.
That's right. That's right. So it often begins, evolution begins with some kind of tragedy. The
Hmm.
continent breaks off. Suddenly we're adrift at sea. We
Hmm.
have to come up with different strategies for life.
Yeah.
But where it connects with miracles is that, as artificial intelligence replaces our cognitive functioning, we're forced into deeper parts of our mind. And the closer that we get to the source of mind, the closer we get to the part of us that connects with the intelligent design of the universe that's ongoing. We call it miracle because we're just amazed that everything works out.
Hmm.
Like, oh my God, I was in the right place at the right time.
Hmm.
Well, we always are. It's just that our thinking mind takes us off that truth
Hmm.
and makes us feel that we're responsible for creating our reality. artificial intelligence is going to prove to us that that reality that we think we're creating can already be created,
Mhm.
but that there's a deeper pattern, there's a deeper intelligent field within us that's actually taking care of everything.
Say more about that because I'm just trying to think about it in terms of how I think about creative intelligence. It is that deeper creative mind, so to speak. But um,
It, it's the
it,
part of the mind that stands before knowing. In Latin, we would call it a priori, the
mhm,
a
mhm.
priori way of knowing or the unknowing. In Sanskrit, we would call it Vedanta, the end of knowing. And the dawn of being, as a civilization, we bought into this idea that we have to work hard.
Mhm.
I mean, maybe not as hard as our ancestors.
But there's still that striving, the struggle, the push.
The
Yes.
striving, the struggle, the push. And yet, I believe that as a human race, we're moving toward greater ease,
Mhm.
effortlessness,
Effortlessness. And
more
and
being.
so the a priori knowing, um, I feel like it's what I have experienced most of my life, and yet doubt was always right next to it. And so, that sets up a doubt of that greater creative mind and that deeper creative mind and that deeper creative intelligence that where the knowing is there, but it's not the knowing in any way that we have come to define it.
Right, right. It's a knowing before knowing. And in Sanskrit, that word is jyoti. And that's where we get the word Jyotisha, which
Ah,
means possessed of that a priori knowing, that knowing before knowing. And this happens when you have your birth chart read. I mean, the reason why you feel so much resonance with it is because you already know this about yourself.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
But it hasn't been brought to the surface. You know who you are on some level. You know what's right to do,
yeah.
but it hasn't been conscious, you know,
Mm, yes.
or named.
Or named. And in naming it and bringing it into consciousness at a more fully explained way, in a more fully explained way, allows the person who's having their chart read to claim it.
Yeah.
And that gives all sorts of potency to it. It's like an activation of that map.
Yes, exactly. Exactly, which is also something that we see in physics, which is the observer effect.
Hmm. Hmm.
So when we see it, okay, this is my purpose. This is why all these things have happened to me,
Hmm.
because they're pointing toward this particular path that my chart names, which gives me the added affirmation.
Hmm.
And then you're able to actualize that. Then, like the seer, when the seer in the process of seeing manifests that which is seen, this is the observer effect.
Hmm.
And that's what happens when that deeper part of ourselves, that our framework, our imprint gets
Hmm.
named, then we can consciously participate in its unfolding.
So how can we how can we speak to the the way in which to turn all of this opportunity to turn it into opportunity? Because you've really painted a pretty strong picture of eh, with the advent of AI or the domination of AI, and even to the extent where it is now, there is huge identity shakeups in the wind.
Yeah, exactly. Who we think that we are, or who we thought we were supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But who are you beyond the mask that you wear or that you thought you had to wear in order to survive in this world?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a existential question. That's the start of the mystical journey.
It is. And how can we best support people on that mystical journey to take it, to be willing to take it?
Right. Well, I mean, this is where suffering comes in, so when people wake up, it's usually because of some kind of pain. I mean, there are some who suffer from divine discontent,
Yes.
everything goes so well in their life, they become bored, like the Buddha. The Buddha had everything, and it's like he wanted to know if there was something more, and then discovered, oh, well, people actually suffer. So that kind of crisis becomes a way to lead others. And so I'm, I've also talked about 2026 as a time when all the guides on the side come forth with
Ah,
enlightened knowledge. So what we're seeing is a repeat of 1960 to 1970. And what astrology offers us, in addition to self-reflection, it also offers us a way of looking at repetitive history and repetitive
mhm,
patterns.
mhm.
And so we're seeing from 2020 to 2030 a repeat of 1960 to 1970. And I mean, without getting into all the comparisons, um, one of the big comparisons is the spiritual revolution that
Mhm.
took place in 1960s. So this is when, of course, the Vietnam War was on, and other things, and that spurred on the kind of mass existential questioning.
Mhm.
Only in that case, it was like, what is the meaning of life if these kids are just being sent as
To be
cannon
killed.
fodder to
Mhm.
Vietnam? And, what is the value of this human birth? En masse, this was asked.
Mhm.
It's also interesting that in, I think, 1962 or 63, one of those years, we have the invention of the personal computer.
Oh,
And that, of course, it filled, a huge warehouse or something.
yes.
But the point is that these two things, mass social uprising, crisis,
Mhm.
layoffs, financial pressures, war, whatever that is
Mhm.
spurring the existential crisis, plus an advancement in technology
Yes.
equal a equal a spiritual evolutionary moment. And we can look back throughout history how each one of the great awakenings was
Mhm.
preceded by these two things. So in 1960 1970, we have all the gurus coming from India,
Mhm.
and they were sages on the stage, I call them. Predominantly,
Perfect. Yes.
predominantly
Yes.
men
Mhm.
and sages on the stage with millions of followers.
Mhm.
Now in 2020 to 2030, I'm describing the movement as being led by guides on the side.
Ah, that's where we get the guides on the side.
And the guides on the side are predominantly women,
Mhm.
because we're touching on the Aquarian age, which is symbolized by the woman at the well,
Mhm.
who gathers the water in her pot in the agrarian society that she lives in and brings that pot back to her village home and pours out the content. Only what comes out isn't water, but air. Those thoughts that
Mhm.
benefit the evolution of society. So there's in consciousness. So there's so much symbolism in that, but predominantly the revolution will be led by enlightened women. I think the Dalai Lama predicted this some years ago, that the new age would be brought about by women.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's obvious because the people sitting in the audience of all those gurus back in 1960, 1970 were predominantly women.
Right.
And the yoga movement and, the last 30 years have really signified the rise of women's spiritual leadership.
Mhm.
including the discovery of the Gospel of Mary Magdalene
Exactly.
and it's
Exactly.
and the church having to recant centuries of you
Kicking
know
and screaming.
gaslighting Mary Magdalene
Right. Right.
basically.
Um,
So yeah, so that's what I mean by guides on the side.
yeah. Okay. So it occurs to me that there's some kind of different listening that needs to happen, both personally and maybe collectively as well.
Yes, exactly. And that is beyond the fear response. A lot of people are afraid of artificial intelligence and the dawn of, these kinds of thinking machines
Hmm.
taking over, what's going to happen, economic fears and insecurities. I mean, the world is the wars.
Hmm.
I mean, look at Europe. I mean, in a situation that we can't even believe is repeating again.
Hmm.
Um, so what I really feel like needs to happen is people have to go beyond fear. So this is when you describe a different kind of listening is requiring going past the blockade of fear.
Hmm. Hmm. Because
And
fear is a blockade, and it shuts down our receptors.
it shuts down our receptors and it makes people get into all kinds of crazy aberrant social behaviors
Hmm. And
as
we're certainly
well.
witnessing that.
And we're witnessing that, in such an atrocious way. So, yes, at the same time, whenever this happens, and we can see this historically, that there is a collective listening that can take place, but the
Mhm.
leader, the spiritual leadership has to step forward. And, this is why I really find the work that you're doing with your book um, Unconditional Remembrance. I had to just quickly look to remember the title, but about, meeting in salons.
Mhm.
And I think that this is also very Aquarian, that the micro communities become really important for generating, inspiring big spiritual change in the world.
Yeah.
It's like we've all had enough of, everything being online.
Hmm. Hmm. Now we need to touch people, and
Now
we
we
need
need
to
to be in the
be in the
in the
same. Yeah.
physical space with
Yes.
people.
Yeah.
And that creates the kind of hundredth monkey effect,
Hmm.
where it's the square root of 1% of the population. If they can all meditate together, they can all participate in a uplifting
Yeah.
collective expression that comes from our deepest source, like prayer, that
Hmm.
even scientifically they've shown that has a big, big impact.
Yes, for sure. And this year in particular, because of the some of the things that you have pointed out, and I'm thinking particularly about what is it the um, um, I just lost it. Oh, about Saturn and Pisces. Um, that it's giving us a different opportunity.
Exactly. I love Saturn in Pisces because he's limited. So, have to forgive me to get a little bit into the astro speak here. I'll explain
Okay.
it clearly so people don't get lost. But basically, for the last 5 years, since 2020, which
Mhm.
comes as no surprise, the planet Saturn has been fully empowered, and that empowerment has led to what we're seeing in the world, this change in government, this takeover of the billionaire class, the big, large scale corporations, um, the recurrence of the old guard the old themes, a kind of return to the past, the reversal of Roe versus Wade, these kinds of going back to what, could even be considered pre-modern. The pandemic, the rise of big pharma, like all this has been due to Saturn's influence. Saturn influences institutions and governments and mass consciousness, but in a restrictive way.
Ah, okay.
That's why as soon as he entered his sign of Capricorn on January of 2020, we experienced for the first time in really 30 years and 60 years, because it also dealt with a Pluto transit that has put us in the state that we're in. But since the 31st of March
Uh-huh.
of 2025, Saturn has moved into a position where he doesn't have as much power.
Yay.
Yay. And the good news is he is under the influence of Jupiter. Pisces is a sign that's ruled by Jupiter, and in 2026 we have a really interesting transit of Jupiter crossing over 3 signs. Usually only crosses 1 sign in a year. 2026 he zips through 3 signs, impacting 3 big areas of the world, and influences Saturn in this sign to recreate institutions,
Hmm.
recreate corporations, how we work, how we operate, even in government. In October until the beginning of December, we had a little sneak preview of what the effects of Jupiter are going to be in 2026. And the first thing that we experienced was a ceasefire in Gaza,
Ah,
which was beautiful.
mhm.
And then we saw the election of Zoran Mamdani as the youngest socialist Democrat Muslim mayor of New York City, which really signifies to us, and the little child shall lead them, the rise of Gen Z as a formidable political, social, and spiritual force in the world. So, in this way, institutions start to change. Our economic landscape changes. Our relationship with work changes, and everything is leading toward more positivity, hope, and optimism,
Mhm, mhm.
but grounded in reality, grounded in practicality, I should say.
So, yes, yes. Um, since since we're seeing these kind of changes, and since people by nature, by human nature, don't like change, there,
Right.
there's something about, okay, how do we support that change that's already happening? It's, we're seeing it, we're giving witness to it, and that also creates the backlash of there's going to be those who fight even stronger, more boldly, to want to hold on to what is, to want to hold on to the old power structures.
Yeah, I mean, and really, what can we do about these people? I mean, look at the Amish. I mean, they're, they're
Okay.
like the extreme example of holding on to the old. Yeah, and they can, and they want to, and they will. But, most of us don't drive horse and buggy anymore. You
So you
know,
mean the change is inevitable?
the
Is
change
that
is
kind of what you're
is
saying?
change is inevitable. This we cannot do anything about it.
Hmm.
And it all depends on how you personally want to adapt to the change. I mean, I'm sure there will be Amish-like communities responding to technology and, going back to the land, which is also one of the triggers of this big change, is that people will revolt by moving back to the earth
Mm.
and
Hmm.
back to living more sustainably in micro communities.
Hmm.
Um, or there's some that will see this as like a great opportunity for spiritual growth. Some will see it as a great financial boon.
Hmm.
You know, it's the one of the hazards and I suppose opportunities of living on this planet is that we're all at different levels.
Hmm.
And yet I believe that because this is affecting such a large body, a large population,
Hmm.
in a very ordinary way, it's meaning the spiritual revolution or awakening is not happening because um, of some elite knowledge. It's happening because ordinary people are having the same kind of experience all at
Oh,
once.
that's something very different, it seems to me.
And it is something very different, right?
Huh.
And so then it becomes normalized.
Hmm.
Spirituality becomes normalized. Just like even talking on Zoom. I mean, this was weird at one time. I mean, not
Right.
everybody did this. Now this is normalized. Now we're used to meeting as pixelations of light and sound,
Right.
not as physical bodies. We're already moving toward the spirit without
Mhm.
even naming it as such.
Yeah. The more that people use the word woo to describe things of the spirit, it both normalizes it, but then, at some point it becomes like, what are you talking about? This just is.
It just is. And I mean, even energy medicine, for
Hmm.
example,
Yes.
like I have a friend from UC Santa Barbara where I went to school who is an incredible energy healer.
Hmm.
And he's been doing this now for, 30 years. And, we all kind of snicker a little bit, like make fun of him a little, especially professors, like, oh, what is he doing? It's so weird. It's so
Yeah.
out there.
Hmm.
Except that now we have, like, through the placebo effect, and we have the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, and it's really becoming very mainstream.
Hmm. And that
And
it's way beyond the placebo effect to when you start looking at quantum physics and how that explains things that we just simply couldn't explain before.
we couldn't explain before, and
Yeah.
now it makes sense, and now he makes sense. So it's what people feel is like so out there and implausible becomes very mainstream.
Yes. With the whole focus on these moon signs, is it important or useful for people to understand what their Vedic moon sign is? And I mean, in other words, um, what is influencing them in this coming time period?
Oh yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm releasing my book now,
Okay.
because the moon sign allows you to connect with that part of yourself that's precognitive, that a priori part of yourself, the instinctual part of you, that intelligence within you that knows what, how to make this seed, sprout
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
grow into the unique kind of plant that you are or flower that you
Mm.
are.
Mm.
And this is amazing. So I described the time uh, that Vedic astrology calculates and your position in it. Your moon sign is a slice of that journey or a drop of that journey that
Mm.
shows the impressions that you're bringing into this life from the prior birth
Ah.
that's informing your destiny. Now, this is also when the hardcore scientists exit the building because there isn't any way that we can really explain how the moon channeling a star
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
at the moment of your birth has to do with your preferences,
Yeah.
your karmic patterns, the things that keep repeating over and over again,
Mm-hmm.
and the life lesson within them. This is crucial knowledge at a time when people are asking the question en masse, who am I?
Yes.
This is who you are. In part behind it, like I mentioned earlier, there's the 28th moon sign, which is the limitless self, that is the witness consciousness within us. And this is really interesting. So
Mm-hmm.
what happens when we have like our moon sign read or our Vedic birth chart read?
Mm-hmm.
It's not an ordinary conversation. What happens is this is the first time maybe in your life in which your story is being told to you. You're not living it. You're not,
Mm-hmm.
the actor in that story. You're sitting as the passive witness and having that story told to you.
Mm-hmm.
That is a very deep spiritual experience because you are then put in the seat of that source consciousness within you, which in Sanskrit is called sakshin. Sakshin means the witness, the seer. And this is the seer that quantum physics is talking about. That part of yourself that can put your attention on any point in space
Mm-hmm.
and just in the process of seeing it, actualize it.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're hearing your traits being described, your moon sign being described, the deepest part of your mind is recognizing that. It's like a light bulb going off. And because you've heard it, then you can, in the process of seeing and through the power of your free will, which is your attention, manifest that higher path, that destiny that you were imprinted at birth with. This is an amazing thing. And and people, like, they're always, after they have this kind of reflection, like you even said, oh, I had my chart read recently.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't that I told you anything new, it was just that I put your attention on what's behind, whatever stories we tell,
Yeah.
so that you can reframe it, so that you can actualize a higher state of experience, a more fulfilled state of experience. And that comes from
And manifest it.
putting yourself in the seat of the witness
Yes.
consciousness.
And I often will talk about the witness. I often teach people not only the value of it, but the how to, then the way that we step into that, particularly is it's almost like it's part of what the experience of Tereya in my work is that experience of the witness.
Yes,
And then we get to see without the stories. And I'm very
exactly.
struck with as I'm listening to you, it's like you're giving me a whole other experience of my own reading.
Oh, it's good.
So I'm very grateful for that. How can people get your book?
Well, it is available on Amazon. I don't know when this is going to be broadcast, but by the 9th of January, it will
Okay.
be 2026. It will be on Amazon, and it's called Moon Signs for the Soul by Dr. Katy Jane. And if you'd like to know your moon sign, you
Mhm.
can find it out on www.vedicmoonsigns.com. Vedic is Vedic moonsigns.com, and you just enter your birth details, and you can find out what your moon sign is, and you can even get a report if you'd like.
And for people who want to perhaps get a reading or find out more about the work that you're doing, what's the best place?
You can visit me on my website, which is drkatyjane.com.
Okay. I mean, that'll all be in the show notes, but I like having it on the recording too.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Wow. Uh, I have many more questions, but thank you so much for what you've brought. It feels really timely, certainly, and important. Thank you for writing this book. Thank you for putting it out for us to receive from.
Thanks so much, Lori. It was such a great conversation. I loved being on your show now twice.
You're a two-timer.
I'm a two-timer.
And thank you to our people who are with us, listening or watching, either listening on wherever you get your podcasts or watching on YouTube. And know that, we come back here regularly for more of this wisdom, there's more of this kind of discovery. And share it. Leave a review, share it with your friends, because then we start seeding what exactly Katy has been sharing with us, which is this way of bringing our consciousness into manifestation in a deeper way that impacts every aspect of life. And for more for yourself about your own quantum connection, you can take the quantum connection quiz over at the bacainstitute.com. And finally, you can get your copy of Unconditional Remembrance, Connection to Source. Usually I'm the one holding it up. Now you are.
I've got it. It's great. You absolutely need it, especially the chapter on what is love. It's a beautiful chapter.
Thank you. Thank you, Katy. And thank you again for being such a wonderful guest. And we'll see you all next time.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us here at Wisdom Talk Radio. We wish you well in your conscious explorations. For more information and to join in the conversation, our website is wisdomtalkradio.com or at Wisdom Talk Radio on Facebook.